After Anne devoured the first 2 steamy tales I shared with her, a spark ignited inside me like wildfire. There was something electric about watching her reactions, the way her eyes would darken, her breaths growing shorter as she absorbed every word. It made me hunger to write more, to give her new stories that fed the fire between us when our lives felt otherwise tangled in the everyday chaos of parenting and obligations. Our spring break vacation was supposed to be a time to unwind, but with the kids glued to us like shadows, barely a second alone, it was lighting me up and leaving me painfully pent up. I craved a moment, a stolen chance to connect with Anne beyond the noise and clutter, and those private stories became the threads weaving us back together. I had set up a slick new app on both our phones, a secret place where we could trade spicy texts, tantalizing pics, and even videos if we wanted. It was modern and discreet, perfect for sneaking in intimacies between the endless distractions. Yet, ironically, we hadn't even cracked it open. It sat there like a locked door we knew we had the key to but hadn't dared to turn yet. The idea of it, though, was enough to keep my mind racing. What if tonight was the night we finally let ourselves dive into that world? The stories I'd written were waiting for her there, just a tap away from setting the mood on fire. While Anne napped in the lull of our crowded hotel room, I quietly sent her the freshest story, a new creation simmering with heat and anticipation. I tapped out a quick message to let her know it was live, the digital equivalent of slipping a note under the door. That little sent confirmation felt like a promise, a secret invitation wrapped in words, ready to be unraveled at her leisure. Meanwhile, I began drafting a different kind of story, one that would slip in just right at the end of this vacation. It was a delicate balance, expressing all the raw desire building between us while capturing the tenderness that reality often muffles. Both needed to coexist, and writing gave me a way to hold our passion when fingers couldn't touch or mouths couldn't speak. Anne's surprise waxing earlier that day had sparked something unexpected in me. Watching her brave that moment, the way she winced but smiled afterward, made me want to celebrate her in every way imaginable. Her softness beneath my fingertips, the way she radiated confidence and vulnerability all at once, it stoked my imagination. I wanted her to see just how much that vulnerability moved me, how it inspired stories that whispered everything I could never say out loud. Capturing those moments in ink, even digital ink, felt intimate, a dedication written just for her. Outside, the sounds of our kids laughing and yelling mixed with the distant hum of spring break crowds, a chaotic soundtrack to our private world. Despite the bustle, I found myself entirely consumed by thoughts of Anne, her smile, the curve of her neck, those fleeting glances we stole when no one was watching. Every memory was fuel, every snapshot of us embedded in my mind like little sparks waiting to ignite. I longed for the chance to connect, truly connect, beyond board games and busy outings. There was a quiet excitement in anticipating her reaction to the stories, imagining her curled up in a corner, phone in hand, lips slightly parted as she read the words shaped by my desire and admiration. The stories weren't just about heat, they were about us. The laughter amid lust, the tender touches woven between wild moments, the way our bond carried us through sleepless nights and sun-drenched days. Writing them was like charting a secret map back to each other, one word at a time. As the afternoon light shifted through the curtains, the hotel room bathed in a warm glow, I rehearsed in my mind the possibilities the evening might hold. Maybe this time, we'd finally unlock that app together, share some of those spicy secrets, and let the stories become preludes to something more. The tension between us was thick, nearly tangible, teasing me relentlessly. The enchanting dance of words and touch had me hooked, and I was eager to see where it could take us. Our spring break might have seemed ordinary to anyone else, but under the surface, it was charged with unspoken promise. Even with the kids running wild, the brief moments alone felt electric, a reminder that beneath the roles of parents and partners, we were still two people who craved each other fiercely. The stories were my way of reminding us both. They were my attempt to capture that hunger and share it with her, wrapped in sentences that peeled back the layers of everyday life to reveal raw desire and devotion. I imagined Anne opening her phone, the app lighting up her screen with my latest work. In my mind's eye, her fingers scrolling carefully, eyes drinking in every line, her body reacting even before she reached the end. There was a delicious intimacy in that image, a silent conversation between us, conducted with nothing but words and the pulse of what lay beneath. It was a secret world we were building, piece by piece. With every sentence I wrote, every phrase I crafted, I felt closer to her, even though she was just a few feet away, lost in a nap. The boundary between the digital and the tangible blurred as desire seeped into my fingertips, pushing me forward. This wasn't just storytelling, it was a lifeline thrown across the chaotic ocean of our busy lives, a call to reconnect and fuel the flame of passion we both needed desperately. The new story I sent her was more than words, it was an invitation, a promise of what could be when the right moment came. Anne's surprise earlier had lit the fuse, and I was waiting for the spark to set the night ablaze. No matter what happened next, I knew that these stories were ours, secret echoes of longing, proof that even when life made it hard, the fire between us still burned bright. Later that afternoon, we piled into the car, the kids bubbling with excitement as we headed to the family fun center. Their laughter filled the space between Anne and me, but beneath the noise, a quiet tension buzzed. I stole glances at her from the corner of my eye, the way her smile softened when she caught me watching. It was that little spark, hidden beneath the surface of everyday life, waiting for a chance to flare into something more. Trying to shake off the restless energy inside me, I figured this trip to the arcade and mini-golf would serve us both well, a rare moment to let loose, to play, to just be, even if only for a while. I craved the distraction, but the stories running in my head refused to quiet down. They tugged at me, a constant reminder of what I wanted but couldn't quite reach. I nudged Anne gently in the shoulder, trying to nudge her toward the app. "Did you get a chance to open that story yet?" I asked, careful not to sound too eager. She shook her head, a playful smirk tugging at her lips. "Nope," she replied. "Not yet. I've been too busy keeping these little monsters in line." I couldn't help but laugh. It was true, between refereeing their squabbles and chasing after them in the crowded arcade, finding a quiet second was like hunting for a rare gem. But still, the thought of her not reading what I'd written pumped fresh urgency through me. A hot story was useless if it wasn't being consumed, if it didn't linger behind closed eyelids or send a pulse racing in hidden moments. That thought made me all the more determined to get her there, even if it meant waiting for the perfect opening. The afternoon sped by in a blur of friendly competition and childish cheers. We raced the kids on go-karts, traded flirty jabs across the miniature golf course, and shared quick smiles when someone landed a particularly good shot. Those moments were a balm to my restless desire, proof that connection wasn't just about heat, but about laughter, shared memories, and the quiet understanding that, no matter how hectic life got, we were still a team. Even so, my mind kept drifting back to the stories. Amid the flurry of sounds and colors, I found myself scribbling ideas on the edges of my mental notebook, plotting the next chapter of the tale I was desperate to finish. By the time we piled back into the car, the kids buzzing and tired, I was already itching to continue writing, to get one step closer to the private world I was building for Anne and me. Back at the hotel, the kids crashed out quickly, their energy spent from a day full of excitement. Anne and I settled into the room, the quiet finally wrapping around us like a soft blanket. We zoned out in front of the TV, the flickering screen a low hum in the background. My heartbeat picked up as I watched her, the way she relaxed into the bed, the gentle rise and fall of her chest. It was in these small, quiet moments that the undercurrents between us grew more intense, the unspoken cravings, the words left unsaid. When she slipped away to brush her teeth, I saw my chance. Quietly, I unlocked my phone and launched the app. There it was, the story waiting, gleaming like a secret treasure. My fingers hovered over the screen, my pulse quickening as I prepared to send her the next surprise. Next time she'd grab her phone, expecting her usual game or a distraction, she'd land instead on my words, my dirty little world crafted just for her. The idea made my stomach twist in anticipation. A delicious tension settled in my veins. Each tap on the keyboard was electric, every sentence a brushstroke painting the mood I wanted her to feel. I worked quickly but carefully, fleshing out details that stirred senses and teased the imagination. The story was more than just lust, it was a promise, an unfolding invitation that only the two of us could unlock. By the time Anne slipped back into bed, the app was live, waiting for her silent discovery. Our eyes met briefly across the room, that small smile of hers giving nothing away, but I knew the game had changed. The night was charged with a quiet energy. I wanted to reach for her, to close the distance that hung between our skin and souls, but I held back, letting the anticipation simmer. The kids' soft breathing from their rooms was a constant reminder of the world outside our bubble. Yet in the hush, the stories I'd sent, and the ones still left unwritten, tangled with my desire. I imagined Anne opening the app, her eyes grazing every word, those private moments stretching and deepening our connection in secret. Even without a touch, the thought of her reading me like that made my body hum with need. I planned my moves in the shadows of the night, stealing glances at her when she thought I wasn't looking. There was a vulnerability in her quiet that made me ache, a softness that invited me closer. My mind spun with scenes yet to be written, next steps in the story, the carefully choreographed dance between tease and surrender, between words and touch. The tension filled the room, growing heavier with every minute that passed. A silent promise waiting to be fulfilled tomorrow, or maybe, just maybe, tonight. When Anne slid back into bed, the familiar weight of her beside me sent a jolt through my entire body. The night wrapped around us like a velvet curtain, soft and intimate, yet the tension that had been building for days now simmered just beneath the surface, begging to break free. I moved closer, pushing past the usual line she held the gentle boundary we agreed on, the little tease that made the chase so thrilling. My hand slid down the front of her soft, loose pajama pants, fingers tracing the warmth of her skin hidden beneath. Her breath caught, a mixture of surprise and desire, and I leaned in, whispering in her ear, my voice low and urgent. "Tomorrow night," she murmured with a playful, half-laughing tone. "We'll be alone in a hotel room." The promise hung between us, waited with anticipation, but I wasn't willing to wait. Not this time. "Tonight," I whispered back, palm grazing her silky smooth curves, my middle finger skimming to find the secret spot I knew would welcome me. "Tonight's now. Push those pants down and let me at you." I tugged the waistband gently but firmly, my growl rasping against her skin. "Lift that fine ass so I can peel these off." The moment was ripe, electric. Seconds later, my fingertips were roaming, exploring familiar places with a desperate hunger. Anne muttered something about lotion, and I was already scrambling to my bag, snagging some as fast as I could to keep the momentum alive. Fingers slick and primed, I returned to her warm body, diving deeper into that delicious softness. Lifting the comforter just enough, I locked my attention on her most sensitive spot, circling and teasing, coaxing out every shiver, every whisper of pleasure. Then, to my astonishment, I looked up and saw Anne utterly absorbed in my story nose buried in her phone, eyes flickering over the words I had poured onto the screen. Jackpot. The intimate circle was complete. Between me stroking her, Anne reading, and me knowing every spicy word hitting her eyes, we were both caught in a delicious tension, each breath weighted and held hostage by growing desire. Our gasps were choked down, silent battles not to break the hush that cocooned us. The quiet was a conduit, amplifying every minute sensation, every brush of skin. My heart pounded hard beneath my ribs, a wild drumline keeping pace with the mounting heat. By the time Anne finished the story, I was racing to bring her to the edge, my hands trembling with need. Yet my position was awkward, my wrist cramped at a bad angle, causing fumbling and frustration. I lost my rhythm, and she, wound tight but endlessly patient, reached out to guide my hand. "Use your finger. Inside me." "Another one." She breathed against my neck, voice soft but insistent. I slipped in, and the rush of her warmth hit me like a flood, an overwhelming wave of sensation that pulled me deeper into her. 2 fingers curled inside, the soft, wet heat wrapping around them as my thumb circled her clit, staying true to what drove her wild. "Deeper," she urged, and without hesitation, I sank 2 knuckles in, pressing firmly against her G-spot, seeking to unlock the fullness of sensation buried inside her. Desire screamed loud and raw, my body responding with an urgency so intense I rasped, "I could blow all over this bed untouched." Her response came swiftly, her pussy clenched tight around my fingers as her moans softened into desperate whimpers, caught between pleasure and restraint. The moment was raw and perfect, a volatile mix of need and tenderness. As I licked my fingers clean, savoring the taste and heat of her, Anne rolled over onto her side, grabbing me. Her hands were hungry, tugging me closer as we moved together in a fast, intense dance toward that quiet, explosive release. We found our rhythm, bodies speaking the language we'd perfected over years, those fast, silent moments carried beneath the veil of night. After the storm passed and we lay tangled, breaths catching in the dark, I spooned her gently, kissing her neck with quiet reverence. "I love you," I whispered into the shadows, the words carrying a softness uncommon to the fire we'd just shared. Anne smirked against my skin, teasing, "That's not what you're really thinking." I blinked, caught off guard, and stammered, Thanks for that." Her grin widened mischievously. "Gotta keep you stocked with material," she said, voice light but loaded with promise. Her words hit me unexpectedly, confirming that this game of stories and secrets wasn't just a temporary thrill, it was a necessary fuel between us. I reached for my phone and gave that other story one last scan, fingers fluttering over the screen as the night stretched ahead. I sent it without hesitation, new and waiting, simmering with promise. "New one in the app whenever you're ready," I whispered, voice laced with excitement tempered by patience. I watched her switch screens, her breathing hitching, pulse racing beneath my hand resting on her hip. The soundtrack of the night played on inside my mind, a melody of suspense and desire that accompanied us as we drifted slowly towards sleep, the promise of tomorrow and everything it held weaving through our dreams. Lifting the covers, my fingers found her again, tracing the delicate curve of her most sensitive spot with deliberate attention. The warmth beneath my touch radiated through me, pulling me deeper into the moment we'd been building toward all day. But then, my eyes caught her Anne, utterly engrossed in the story I'd sent earlier, her gaze locked onto the screen, as if nothing else existed in that quiet room, except those words and the weight behind them. It felt like winning the jackpot, a perfect collision of pleasure and connection. Here we were, entwined not just physically but through the secret world I'd crafted for her, the words burning across her eyes as my hands explored the softness of her body. We both struggled to keep our gasps soft, biting back moans that threatened to spill out and shatter the hush around us. My heart hammered wildly in my chest like it might break free and echo the desperate rhythm of my desire. By the time Anne finished reading, I was already racing against my own limits, pushing my hand to bring her to that edge. But the angle was off, and my wrist cramped painfully, betraying me at the most vulnerable moment. My fingers fumbled, slipping away from the rhythm I'd worked to find. Anne's patience in that moment was remarkable. Even when she was tightly wound, she guided me gently back into the moment. "Use your finger. Inside me. Another one," she whispered urgently, her breath warm against my neck. I slid my fingers in, and the rush of her wetness hit me like a flood full, welcoming and utterly intoxicating. I settled with 2 fingers curling deep inside her, while my thumb circled her clit in slow, insistent circles. "Deeper," she urged, voice trembling with need. I didn't hesitate. I sank 2 knuckles in, pressing firmly on her G-spot, searching for that sweet spot that sent her spiraling. My body responded instantly, desire flaring hotter and louder until I rasped through clenched teeth, "I could blow all over this bed untouched." It was as if that raw honesty fueled her release. Seconds later, Anne hit her peak, her body tensing as her pussy clenched fiercely around my fingers. Her moans dropped to desperate whispers, muffled by the need to stay quiet. The intensity of the moment was overwhelming. It was a perfect blend of tenderness and urgency, of heat and restrained abandon. As I slowly withdrew my fingers, I bent forward to lick away the evidence of her, savoring the taste and essence that was uniquely hers. Anne shifted beside me, rolling over onto her side with practiced ease. She reached out, grabbing my cock with a hunger that matched mine, pulling me close for a fast, intense burst of connection. Our bodies moved in quiet synchronicity, the room filled with the soft sounds of our mutual release, a private symphony shuttered by the night. After the storm passed and our breathing slowed, I wrapped my arms around Anne, spooning her close in the darkness. My lips found her neck, pressing soft kisses along her skin. The moment felt profound, a quiet tenderness that counterbalanced the fierce passion we'd just shared. "I love you," I whispered into her ear, voice thick with emotion. She chuckled softly, teasing, "That's not what you're really thinking." I blinked, caught off guard by her playful challenge, stammering, Thanks for that." She smiled, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Gotta keep you stocked with material," she shot back, her tone light but loaded with meaning. The ease with which she tossed that line over to me, that invitation to continue our game of stories and desire, was thrilling. I reached for my phone, opened the app one last time, and skimmed over the next story I'd been working on. It was ready sealed and waiting silently in the digital vault that only we knew about. I sent it off with a quick tap, a secret gift for whenever she chose to unwrap it. "New one in the app whenever you're ready," I whispered, watching as she switched screens, her breathing hitching and her pulse quickening under my hand resting lightly on her hip. The room seemed charged with electricity, the lingering heat of what had just passed between us, mingling with the promise of what was yet to come. Lying there with her, I felt a rare type of peace, one born from complete satisfaction, but also from knowing the story wasn't over. There was more to explore, more to write, more to share. The stories we created weren't just words. They were bridges that connected parts of us too often left hidden beneath the roles of parents, partners, friends. Now, in this intimate cocoon of night, I drifted off, listening to the quiet harmony of her breath, the steady beat of her heart, the soundtrack of a love that was messy, desperate, and thrilling all at once. As I wiped my fingers clean, the taste of her still lingering sweetly, Anne rolled over, eyes dark with desire and a mischievous spark that set my nerves aflame. With a quick, practiced motion, she grabbed my cock, drawing me close as our bodies aligned in a fast, quiet rhythm. The urgency between us was palpable, a storm held just beneath the surface, desperate to burst free in silent explosions. Each movement was charged with need, a delicate dance perfected through years of knowing and craving one another in moments snatched from the chaos of family life. As she moved with that fierce intention, our breathing quickened, low moans slipping past lips that begged for silence. The world outside those walls ceased to exist. There was only us, locked in this intimate battle of pleasure and surrender. Our pace built, mounting steadily until I felt the pressure climb so sharply it threatened to overwhelm me, a volcano about to erupt. Yet I held on, savoring the raw intensity of the moment. The way our shared heat seemed to fold into something deeper, more profound than mere physical release. In the hush of the room, punctuated by soft sighs and the slap of skin on skin, time stretched and twisted, binding us tighter with every heartbeat. Finally, I let go, collapsing against her with a heavy, trembling exhale as our world shattered in that perfect silence. Afterward, as we lay tangled and spent, the quiet between us was filled with the kind of warmth that only comes from true closeness. I spooned Anne gently, my hand tracing lazy patterns on her hip, while my lips found the tender curve of her neck. The scent of her skin, the rise and fall of her chest, grounded me in a way nothing else could. Summoning the courage that flickered in the hush, I whispered 3 simple words into the dark. "I love you." Her response was immediate, playful as always, but tinged with something deeper. "That's not what you're really thinking," she teased softly, her breath warm against my skin. I blinked, caught between embarrassment and amusement, words fumbling from my mouth. Thanks for that." Her grin widened, eyes gleaming. Gotta keep you stocked with material, she said, the double meaning hanging deliciously between us. The way she casually tossed the line back made me realize just how much this dance of ours, these shared stories and secret moments, meant to both of us. It was more than a game. It was a lifeline in the middle of everything else. I didn't hesitate. Reaching for my phone, I flipped open the app once more and gave that other story one last scan, my fingers tracing the lines as the night stretched before us like an open road. Without a second thought, I sent it a fresh piece of the puzzle, waiting patiently in the digital ether for her to discover whenever she chose. New one in the app whenever you're ready, I breathed, voice low and thick with longing. Watching her switch screens, I felt her pulse quicken beneath my hand resting on her hip, her breath catching in a way that set my nerves on fire. The soundtrack of our night played over and over in my mind, a mix of whispered words, slow touches, and the promise that every story shared was just one chapter in the wild, beautiful chaos that was us. Tucked in beside her, I let the sounds of her quiet breathing lull me toward sleep, my thoughts swirling with anticipation and satisfaction. This wasn't just another night, it was a testament to everything we'd built, the unspoken promises woven through the tales we told each other in the deepest, rawest ways. And as the darkness wrapped around us, I knew there were countless pages yet to write, many more secret stories to share, and moments that would blaze brighter than any words ever could.